Okay, we're going to be beginning to paint our Altered Moments figurines today. So a couple of things you need to know. The paint we're using is acrylic paint. It stains your clothes. If you're worried about your clothes getting dirty, I would put an apron on to protect the front of you. At minimum, I would roll up your long sleeves. So each group is going to get a basket that has styrofoam plates, some paper towel, and a Sharpie marker. You are going to use this styrofoam plate as your paint palette for the entire project. So you are keeping this palette at cleanup, reusing it every day until your project is done. So with a Sharpie marker, you're going to write your name on the bottom of the plate, and then put the caps on Sharpies and put those back in the basket. So then what you're going to be doing is determining what areas you're going to begin with. So this entire figurine has to be repainted. You cannot leave any of the original color that it came with. You need to alter even the surface to make it more original. So if it is helpful, you can look at your sketchbooks or your rough draft plan. Okay, then your groups are going to be sharing a tray with painting supplies. If you're the first class to paint, so second period, one student is just going to take the lid off of the paint, put that on your tray, and then set that right on top. So I have 14 paint colors that you can choose to work with. You can use the paint like it is, or you can mix and make your own colors. These trays also have silver and gold paint, and I'll show you how you can make any color become metallic if you want it to have that metallic look to it. So this container has all the different paint brushes in it. When you are not using a brush, rather, if it's a clean brush, only clean brushes stay in this container when you're not using them, but really you should only have one paintbrush at a time. Then what I like to do to teach my students how to mix colors is, well, first of all, you have to learn how to put the sticks into the paint colors. If you're the first class of the day. Okay, so these small popsicle sticks are your scoopers to get the paint out of the ice cube tray. So first class of the day, after you take your lid off, you're going to put one stick in every color, and these sticks stay with that one color. They do not get mixed up. We are not going to contaminate these sticks, which means there's two colors on the stick. So when you are ready to paint, I am going to be starting with the background of mine to begin with. I like to paint the background first before I paint my figurines, and the reasoning is if some of the paint from the shoe gets off onto the grass, that's not gonna make as big of a visual impact as if I paint the grass and it comes up on the pant leg. That's gonna be more obvious. So I'm gonna look at my figurine and figure out how I'm gonna do the background to begin with. And I do want mine to kind of look like grass, and then I'll paint the stones some gray colors. So remember that this color is silver. It's metallic. That is not actually gray. If you want gray, you have to make gray. So I want gray. I'm going to be mixing that. So here's how you mix paint colors. You're going to scoop the lighter color that you need onto the plate first. So if I'm going to make gray, I need white and I need black. So I'm going to take some white, and I'm going to wipe it on the edge of the plate. The white stick goes right back in the white paint. Then I know I'm going to need a small amount of black paint. I wipe it next to the white. I don't want my black stick touching the white paint because now this stick is contaminated. Now it's got white paint and black paint on it. I do not put this back in my paint tray because if I do that, then I contaminate these colors. So if this happens, I just wipe it off with my paper towel, check that the stick is clean, and then it goes back in the color it belongs in. So the fastest way to mix colors is to always take a small amount of the darker color and put it into the lighter color. It will mix faster and it uses less paint. I always use the back end of my paintbrush so that I'm not jamming paint inside this metal portion. So I'm going to roll a little bit of the darker color and start mixing it into the lighter color. If it needs to get darker, I can always pick up a little more of the darker paint. And I think I'm going to make a couple of grays for my stones. So that might be my lightest gray. So I'm going to move some of this over here and pick up a little more dark. So I've got some options. When I'm done mixing, then I'm going to use my paper towel and I'm just going to wipe the end of my paintbrush handle off. So Your container has lots of different sizes of paintbrushes. You want to choose an appropriate size paintbrush for the area that you are painting. If you are painting a small detail area, get a small detail brush. If it's a larger area, then maybe you can use a wider brush. You've got flat brushes and you've got round brushes. So flat brushes are good for large flat areas. Rounder brushes are better for smaller areas. So I'm going to be using a round brush. So I like to always rinse my brush in water. You have a bucket of water at your table. This never gets picked up. You leave yours on the table. Everybody can reach it. I'm going to swish it in water. I'm going to wipe it across the sponge. I want to double check that the class before me actually cleaned the brushes well enough before I use the brush. It's up to you to work however is most comfortable. If you want to pick up your figurine to paint it, that's fine. If you want to just leave it on the table, that's fine too. But the tin foil, your project has to sit on its tin foil when you put it in the storage cabinet, because if there's wet paint on the bottom of the project, when it's on the tin foil, that will release. It won't stick permanently. If your wet paint touches your cardboard, it's going to glue it to the cardboard, and then the cardboard gets stuck to your project, so keep that in mind. Okay, so how I'm grading your painting is craftsmanship. Does it look neat? Did you thoroughly cover the surfaces? So I shouldn't see any of the polymer clay still showing. And when I paint, I'm kind of pulling the brush and kind of pushing the brush. Notice I'm not smashing the brush straight down and spinning it around. That's going to ruin the shape of my paintbrush. If I want to mix colors as I go on the clay, I could do that. Because this is acrylic paint, the benefit is that you can paint over this again. So acrylic dries permanent. If you don't like how it looks next class, you can just change those colors. So I'm just going to kind of do a quick coat to get these stones painted gray, but I'm going to tip my project on the side to kind of get my brush pushed in on the angles. All right, so I've got a lot of gray paint on the grass area that does not belong, so I'm going to have to paint over that when I do my grass later on. So I'm getting all these little side angles. So anytime I am needing to get a new brush or switch paint colors, I always clean this brush first. So swish it in the water first, wipe it across the sponge. The sponge is going to take the rest of the paint off, and then set that back in the tray before you switch out for a different paintbrush. So I'm going to get a little bit of a smaller brush, and I'm going to come back in here and do some detailing where I'm going to add in some darker gray kind of in some areas to bring in some more texture for this. Okay, so you're always starting with the lightest color first on your plate. You're putting a little bit of the darker color into the lighter color. You're using the back handle of your brush to do your mixing. So let me show you how you can make colors metallic. So say I want my little headband to be like a metallic purple, for example. I'm going to get purple. I'm going to scoop it on the plate. I'm going to get silver. I'm going to put that next to my purple. The sticks don't touch, so they're not contaminating. Now I'm going to get my paintbrush handle. Purple is darker than silver, so I'm going to get a little bit of purple, and I'm going to start mixing that into the silver, and it's just going to make a metallic purple. So any color can become metallic. Okay, but occasionally what can happen is that when you're reaching across to get your paint colors, you might accidentally drop a little bit of a color onto another color, like that. Now I've got white on top of my black. If your paints are contaminated, all you do is take the stick of the color that the original paint is, scoop underneath the color that doesn't belong, and just lift that off. Then just get your paper towel, or if a kid can use that paint, go ahead, or just wipe it off with your paper towel. So at cleanup time, you are storing your project on your tin foil in your cardboard tray, putting that on your class shelf. Then every student is responsible for cleaning their own brushes. You have to clean the paint out of the bristles. You have to clean the paint off the handle. All your clean paint brushes go inside this container, and those are sitting next to your ice cube tray. If you are the last class of the day, then what you have to do is take these popsicle sticks out, and you're going to wipe the stick off on the edge, and then you're going to lay it on the side of the tray. You don't want these sticks to touch each other because then they're going to get stuck together. They'll glue together overnight. So I'm just wiping it off on the edge, and I'm lining these all on my tray. And then the last thing I'm going to do is put the lid on top so these paints are not drying out. Then when your table is finished with this, and your lid is on tight, and all your brushes are where they belong, then you're going to raise your hand and tell me that your table is done. I'm going to come check that your tray was finished the way it needs to be, and then I will dismiss your groups to be washing your hands. Oh, another thing, sorry, I forgot this. Your plate, you're keeping this plate the remainder of the project. If there's enough paint for you to use again next class, then you're just going to take some tin foil, and you're going to lay the tin foil over the top. This plate is gonna get stored with your project on your shelf together. Those two things get stored together. Now, if you decide you don't want to save your paint, let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so acrylic paint dries permanent. This is paint that was dried from a couple of days ago. Dried paint can get fresh paint right on top. So if you don't want to save your paint colors, what you're going to do is just take your paper towel and just kind of wipe off the plate so there's not a lot of thick paint on here. And then this is just going to go with your project on your shelf. It's going to dry out overnight, and then it will be ready to put new paint on top of next